Her shoulder hurts, Daddy, those were the words that changed everything for Navy medic and single father, Ethan Cole. The line came from his 5-year-old daughter, Lily, whose innocent observation cracked open a truth Ethan had buried deep beneath years of pain, loyalty, and loss. But before that moment, no one could have imagined how their worlds would collide: a humble ex-soldier, a wounded CEO, and a secret that would shatter the strongest heart. Ethan had served 12 years in the Navy as a combat medic. After losing his wife, Anna, during childbirth, he devoted every breath to raising Lily while volunteering at a local hospital. His days were simple: saving lives, patching wounds, and making sure his daughter never saw the war still raging inside him. One rainy evening, as thunder rolled through the city, Ethan's calm life was torn open. A car crashed on the highway near the clinic, and without hesitation, he rushed into the storm with his emergency bag. Inside the overturned car was a woman, unconscious, her arm twisted unnaturally. He fought through shattered glass and burning metal to pull her out. He didn't know her name then. He just knew she needed saving. When she woke up in the hospital, she was distant but graceful. Her name was Amelia Rhodes, CEO of one of the largest medical technology companies in the state. Despite her wealth and power, there was a fragility in her eyes that Ethan couldn't ignore. She asked who had saved her, and when she met him, this quiet man in worn scrubs, holding his daughter's hand, something in her expression softened. She thanked him, not just with words, but with a quiet sincerity he hadn't seen in years. Over the next few weeks, as Amelia recovered, Ethan helped her with physical therapy. Lily often came along, bringing laughter to the sterile clinic halls. Amelia grew attached to both of them. She would watch Ethan wrap her shoulder, his hands steady, his eyes filled with kindness, the kind of kindness that money couldn't buy. She started learning about his life, about how he'd served overseas, how he'd lost Anna, and how he was now working 2 jobs to afford Lily's school fees. There was something about his humility that broke down her walls. One afternoon, as Ethan helped her stretch her arm, Amelia winced. "It's fine," she said, forcing a smile. But before Ethan could respond, Lily looked up from her coloring book and whispered, "Her shoulder hurts, Daddy." Ethan paused. His daughter's innocent voice carried a weight he couldn't explain. He checked Amelia's shoulder more carefully, and that's when he noticed something odd. A deep scar near her collarbone, one that looked eerily familiar. That night, the memory haunted him. Years ago, in the chaos of a battlefield rescue, he had treated a woman with that exact same scar, the mark of a bullet wound that never healed right. Her name had been AR on the dog tag he found beside her. But she'd vanished before he could confirm if she'd survived. That operation had gone wrong. Dozens of soldiers were lost. The classified mission was buried under military silence. And now, sitting across from him years later, was Amelia Rhodes, the woman he had unknowingly saved twice in his life. The realization broke him. She wasn't just a CEO. She was a survivor from his darkest day, the day that cost him his comrades, his peace, and part of his soul. He didn't know whether to be relieved or angry. She had disappeared back then, and her company had quietly profited from military contracts that Ethan's team had risked their lives to protect. The truth was tangled, painful, and impossible to ignore. The next day, he confronted her gently. "You were there," he said, voice trembling. Amelia froze. The silence between them was unbearable. "You treated me," she whispered. "I remember your voice. You told me to hold on." Tears filled her eyes. "I wanted to find you. But when I came home, I learned what happened to your team. I couldn't face it." She explained how the company she later took over had been involved in covering up the fallout from that mission. She'd spent years trying to rebuild her life, never realizing that the man who'd saved her twice was living just miles away, raising a little girl alone. Ethan didn't know what to say. He looked at Lily, who tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, are you mad at her?" He knelt down beside his daughter, realizing that forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was healing. He looked back at Amelia. "You've carried your pain alone," he said softly. "But maybe it's time we stop running from it." Weeks later, Amelia invited Ethan and Lily to a company event. She announced a new foundation dedicated to helping wounded veterans and medics who'd lost everything after service. The program was named after Ethan's late wife, Anna Cole. The crowd stood in silence as Ethan and Lily joined her on stage. In that moment, the scars of the past didn't feel like burdens anymore. They were proof of survival, of compassion, of second chances. As the lights dimmed, Amelia placed her hand gently on her shoulder, no longer hiding her pain. Lily smiled up at her and said, "It doesn't hurt anymore, right?" Amelia knelt down and hugged her tightly. "Not when I have people like you." The story of a Navy medic, a broken CEO, and a child's innocent words became more than just a story. It became a reminder that healing isn't about forgetting the pain. It's about finding the courage to face it together.